And now we'll hear from Neil Schulman. Neil?
Thank you. I'm J. Neil Schulman, author and filmmaker, and I made this movie alongside Night about the American Revolution returning in our time, and we gave copies to just about everybody who came to this conference. And for those of you watching on C-SPAN, you can go to Amazon.com and buy it. So let's talk about the first American Revolution. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled. Here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote those words about felons illegally in possession of firearms who on April 19th, 1775, used those illegal guns to shoot at police legally appointed by the governor to confiscate their illegal guns. In the exchange of gunfire, 3 cops were killed and 9 cops were wounded. Sheriff David Clark, I have bad news for you. This country was founded by cop killers. Roughly 226 years later, on September 11th, 2001, 4 commercial jetliners filled with passengers, flight attendants, and flight crew, all of them disarmed of firearms by United States federal law, were overpowered by jihadi militiamen armed only with box cutters, 4 per aircraft. 2 of those captured aircraft were used as weapons to crash into New York's Twin Towers financial headquarters. 1 crashed into the US military headquarters in Washington, D.C., and 1 flight where the disarmed passengers, none of them with military or police uniforms or badges, fought the jihadi militiamen who, rather than surrender, crashed the plane into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The casualties that day were just under 3,000, but in subsequent years, wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and elsewhere cost the United States thousands of more lives, trillions of dollars, and a wounded warrior class. Gun control gave us 9/11. I'm a writer and filmmaker who sold stories and screenplays to Hollywood production companies, including an original script for The Twilight Zone broadcast by CBS in primetime March 7, 1986. My new narrative feature film, Alongside Night, based on my first novel published in October 1979, was given out to participants at this conference as a counterpoint to the usual Hollywood movies that treat privately held firearms as dangers to public safety. Hollywood writers and producers led by Harvey Weinstein hate private gun ownership, yet the entertainment industry makes movies and TV shows full of guns. Hollywood gets past its own objections by having these guns be either futuristic ray guns or ordinary guns used to shoot the heads off zombies, or by having the guns be used by cops. Primetime US television is dominated by shows featuring law enforcement officers and military service personnel as the armed heroes. On the other side is a political right wing dominated by politicians who assign absolute human rights only to the unborn. Anyone breathing air has only government-granted privileges, driving licenses, gun licenses, work permits, and so forth. They talk about a right to work, but want to build a wall to keep out workers. They want gun rights only for the law-abiding. In other words, anyone who meekly complies with thousands of tyrannical regulations. I'm here to agree with the signers of the Declaration of Independence, a legal document more binding than the Constitution, that when any government, police, and regulations become oppressive of the people's rights, the people have the moral right to resist abuse of their rights under color of law, and existing federal law agrees with me. Look up Title 18, U.S. Code Section 242, which says that any official, local, state, or federal, who violates constitutionally protected rights is acting as a criminal and has zero legal authority to do so. Title 18, U.S. Code Section 242. Title 18, U.S. Code Section 242. Title 18, U.S. Code Section 242. By the way, the Second Amendment in a recent Seventh Circuit decision applies to illegal immigrants. And I need to tell you something that is not going to be pleasant for a lot of you to hear. It also applies to drug gangs, because nowhere in the US Constitution is the word drug mentioned. And according to the 9th and 10th Amendments, if it ain't listed in the Constitution as powers of the federal government, anything they do on this subject is void ab initio. That's how Black Lives Matter and defenders of the Bill of Rights, you in this room, can get together. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil.